Hey, what's up, everybody? The Chicago Gooner bringing another Arsenal talk. Of course, Mathieu Debuchy to the Arsenal is finally done. Finally got announced today. It was about 2 weeks into the making. Ever since France got knocked out of the World Cup, of course, Debuchy told a French reporter, that yes, indeed, he will be coming to Arsenal, and the announcement's been imminent. That it's been okay. When are you gonna announce it? When are you gonna announce it? When is it just gonna be final? Of course, we were waiting for Newcastle to um, announce their signing. I forgot who the guy's name is, but yeah, we were just waiting for that, and then we are gonna finally announce them. Of course, I'm sure there was some contract stuff, and of course, the medical was done as well. But it's finally done. It's a great signing. When you look at this transfer window already, we're filling needs. We're just not signing people for the sake of signing people, like those bastards down the road that wear blue. That they just seem to sign people just to sign people and just to spend money, just to spend money. And we're not doing that. We're filling needs instead of just going after the bigger names. And a lot of wishy-washy type stuff about Debuchy, about him coming in, that we think we could have done better. Of course, Serge Aurier stuff. I think maybe in a few years' time that we'll be looking at him and saying, God, I wish we would have signed him. But of course, there's always the concern of playing in the Africa Cup and everything like that. But Debuchy is still a great signing. You can always look at it as a somewhat of a rental, if you could say that. Obviously, Arsene Wenger was looking for experience rather than bringing in a inexperienced right back such as Aurier. When you go from Sanya to an inexperienced right back, who knows? Aurier could have bombed out in the first few games to where he just couldn't handle the Premier League. And of course, then you're going to have to count on maybe Jenkinson or even someone else possibly playing in that right back position. So you could definitely see with getting Debuchy that Arsene Wenger wanted experience to come in, so he can, now the talk is now that Jenkinson is going to go out on loan, and Arsenal's trying to work some deals to see what kind of team he can go to. Um, in my opinion, I almost wish that instead of throwing him out to a maybe like a Premier League side or a bottom half Premier League side, maybe even just send him to a championship side, just because he'll start every single game, because there's I'm sure there's very few right backs in the championship that are even good or even good enough to play in the Premier League. And he, of course, Jenkins would be welcome there, and probably play 90% of the games, and he'll get appearances 90% of the time. Rather, if you go to a even a bottom half Premier League side, where a manager is kind of used to a certain player, to where a new player comes in, he doesn't know the side too well, or if a manager might think a different player with more experience has a better chance of them winning, rather than putting Jenkinson in there. So I almost think that it'd be better if he went to maybe a championship side, because the championship, I mean, let's be honest, if you ever watch the championship games, they play some of them here in the States on BN Sports, and defensively, there is really not a whole lot of defense when it comes to championship league football. And I think Jenkinson would thrive on that, and he would it would help his game even more, especially when it's so much like end to end. It seems like it's even more end to end than Premier League at times. But with Brian Debuchy, and you're seeing a guy with experience, Premier League experience, which is even better. So he knows who the players are, who to watch out for. At the times that he really needs to think more defensively than attacking wise. And of course, the talk around Twitter and everything, especially throughout the last 2 weeks, and even during the World Cup, is that the guy that's leaving the club couldn't even make first choice right back on his national team, but now we're getting the first choice right back on the national team of France's national team, and it was kind of shocking to see Debuchy's stats um, when they're comparing him to other right backs such as like Sanya, um, even other right backs in the World Cup, and his stats were better than Sanya's almost overall. I think the only stat that Sanya had that was better was headers, and that was it. Interceptions per game, blocks per game, um, passes, pass completion, and everything. Debuchy was better on all fronts. As far as like maybe like pace goes, I think they're about even. Maybe Debuchy maybe a slightly faster, maybe considering this in this point of Sanya's career. Um, but overall, he's just the stats say at least that Debuchy is a better right back. But are they inflated because of he played with Newcastle, and sometimes a lot of times I guess you could say they played more on the back heel a lot of times, but at the same time you got to look at that back four of Newcastle, and it's just like it's a complete shit show. There was no real organization, there was no real leadership um, at Newcastle at all, and you could always point out Debuchy as really hardworking and really giving it his all, even though some Newcastle fans say he was lazy and he just didn't look interested, especially towards the end of the season. But when you give a guy with that much talent, I guess you could say, and you put him with another three guys who don't have as much talent as he does, he can't do everything on his own, and he can't really be that leader sometimes, because right backs and full backs are never really leaders all that often. When it comes to back fours, it's always the one of the center halves is always the leader, or you always see the goalkeepers really shouting out like orders and everything, and getting them in line and getting them organized. So trying to compare what Debuchy did at Newcastle is I think that's the wrong way to go. I think when you look at him, what he did with France, and how well he played with France in the World Cup, I think that's what you have to really look for. And coming to of course a club like Arsenal, and having Champions League football, and being one of the best clubs in the world, and having just loads of talent surrounding him, I think we'll see the best of what Debuchy really has to offer. And like I said too, I think it's just going to be whatever his contract is going to be, whether it be if he's going to be with the club for 3 or 4 years, that's all it's going to be basically. Is I think he's just going to be the guy for like the next 2 years possibly, and then that's when you'll see either like Jenkinson or either Bellerin coming into the side and being the first choice right back, and having Debuchy be more of a cover guy after probably the first 2 years. Also, there's another right back from Atletico Madrid that Arsenal is interested in, and that's kind of surprising to hear that, just based on the fact that we have Jenkinson, we have Bellerin, and you kind of have to start thinking, okay, does Arsene Wenger kind of doubt somebody? Because I hear nothing but great things about Bellerin. Being here in the United States, we don't get too much information about the youth side. Of course, we can't go and see games or anything like that. So, I would have to take the judgment off of people from the UK that can see them, on a regular basis, or even go to a game once in a while and really judge them. But anything that I've heard about Bellerin, I've heard even comparisons to that he's like Dani Alves, but he can defend, and that's probably like the highest compliment I've heard as far as Bellerin goes. And when you have those two guys as your future, and then you're going after another right back who is very highly touted from Atletico Madrid. I know Atleti, they don't want to get rid of him, but I guess the player wants to leave. So, but that was kind of like a shocker too of what are they going to actually do with Jenkinson? I know there's been like a lot of talk over the last few days that Arsene Wenger might move Jenkinson over to a center half, um, which I don't think that's his best position. Obviously, I think he has a lot of skills to offer as far as being a right back. He has pace, he has a little bit of skill. His crossing is great. Or I wouldn't say great yet, but I think he has the ability to be a great right back eventually. He just needs that experience. Um, when you get a game every maybe 5 or 6 games, or you get subbed in for 10 minutes every 5 or 6 games, that just doesn't give you enough experience. That doesn't give you enough confidence to build on and to really show what you can really do. And he just needs that. I really hope that they bring in another right back possibly. It seems like this Atletico Madrid kid is going to be coming in possibly. That would open the door for Jenkinson to go out on loan. And then, of course, Jenkinson comes back next year. He has full experience. And then you even send the Atletico Madrid kid out on loan next year to get him experience and possibly build him up. So there's a lot of possibilities with the Debuchy signing and what it's going to offer, especially in the long run, the big picture here. You always have to think, especially as an Arsenal fan, you always think of the big picture with certain players, and you really have to think of the big picture with Jenkinson and what Debuchy is offering. With the signing, I think it's a great signing. Obviously, it's our second signing on a Thursday. Keep that in mind, people. That both of our signings came on or announced on a Thursday. So maybe we'll see something next Thursday. Who knows? But like I said, we're filling needs. We needed a striker. Arsene Wenger has already come out and said that Alexis Sanchez is a modern day striker. But will he play striker all the time? I doubt it. Looking at our best lineup possible, you're going to say, possibly Giroud up front, Walcott on the right, of course Ozil playing behind Giroud, Alexis Sanchez on the left, and then you're going to have Aaron Ramsey backing them up, and then whoever the next DM is going to be. Which kind of leads me into this is, the Sami Khedira stuff is being, there's so many different reports out there. There's even reports that the agent has said, I haven't had any talks with Arsenal, I haven't had any talks with Chelsea, which just seems kind of ridiculous because about 4 or 5 days ago there's like 2 reporters that are on Twitter from the UK media who are pretty reliable, that I've seen on some forums that they are very reliable sources, said they've flat out talked to the agent themselves face to face and said that they're in talks with Arsenal. So what's the real story here? Is the agent lying or are the reporters lying? Which, when you come out saying something like that, you're kind of ruining your reputation as a reporter. And of course, not too many reporters in the UK have good reputations to begin with, and they're not also, very reliable. But it seems like these two, from what I saw, they're pretty reliable sources. Well, why would they just come out and say that, yeah, I just talked to the agent? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And but like I said in my last episode, it's just, paying that type of money for him is just, I think is ridiculous. I think is, I'm going to be kind of a hypocrite here and say, of course, all Arsenal fans say, we had the money, spend it. But Sami Khedira is not. Mesut Ozil is our best player. After that you could probably say Alexis Sanchez is our second best player. After that you could probably say like Aaron Ramsey or something is our second best player or our third best player. And Sami Khedira, when you think of that type of money, spending 150,000 pounds or 200,000 euros is what his asking price is. You think a game changer would want that type of money, or you would give that type of money to a game changer. When I think of a game changer at the DM spot, or a holding midfielder, or just a midfielder alone, you think of a Yaya Toure or a Schweinsteiger or a Vidal. Those guys are game changers. They can sit back and defend, and they can also push forward and score you goals. To where Khedira is just, he's a great player, no doubt. He has a lot of skills. He has a lot of technical ability, tactical ability as well. But he's just not a game changer. You can't really just like pick him out in the crowd and say, he's a game changer. People are using this Brazil game against Germany as, as their example of that he can be a game changer. You know, Anybody could have went out there against Brazil that game and probably scored 5 goals. I mean, 11 Brazilians were sitting on their hands for 90 minutes. Everybody could have looked good. Anybody, any national team almost, especially in the World Cup, could have went out there and beat Brazil that day because that's how poor they were. And I hate people that use that as an example that kind of like Liverpool fans, how they keep on ragging on us about the 5-1 at Anfield. Okay, well, what happened at the Emirates those 2 times? Should we start ragging on you about that? Because that's more, we beat you 2 times rather than you beating us just the 1 time. And it's just, I hate when people make those type of examples like, well, this team beat that team, so this team is better than that team. Well, no, that's just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement. So trying to use the Brazil game as a stepping stone to say that Khedira is a game changer, he's just not. If he was that much of a game changer, Real Madrid would have offered him more than a 2-year contract extension. They would offer him the 100 or the 200,000 euros if he was a game changer. He's just not. He's a great player. He does well. He does what he's supposed to do, but he's just not a game changer. And you just can't, like I said in my last episode, you can't give him that type of money because you're going to have Ozil knocking on the door. You're going to have Aaron Ramsey knocking on the door. You're going to have Walcott knocking on the door and say, give me more money. If you're going to pay this guy this type of money, give me more money. And we just can't have that type of imbalance within the club. You have to keep it balanced. So in this case, I think Arsenal is doing the right thing. I think Ivan Gazidis, obviously Arsene Wenger valued him below what his asking price is. I guess in the defense of Khedira, this is going to be his last big contract. He's 27 years old. He just came off an ACL injury. And he's thinking of his future. He wants max money. It's smart for a player to come out and say, I want this money, but we might value him at say 110, 120,000 pounds a week. So maybe they can meet in the middle. Maybe this is just the start of the negotiations because the World Cup just ended. He was. There were some bullshit stories that he was in London the day of the German celebration when they got back to Germany. He's in Germany celebrating. Why the fuck would he would get on a plane and go and fly to London the same day to try to work out some type of contract negotiation? It ain't gonna happen because it just doesn't happen that way because it's the agent's job to negotiate for him. The player doesn't have to sit there with his agent holding hands saying, "Give me this money." So hopefully maybe that's just a starting price that Khedira wants, and maybe there's something where we can meet in the middle. Maybe we valued him at say like 110, 115,000 pounds a week to where he wants 150. Maybe we can meet in the middle and say 125. That I would be okay with. But the 150, I think we can get someone else at a better value, like a Morgan Schneiderlin or even a Lars Bender. I think maybe even a Lars Bender would only probably cost, maybe 100,000, maybe 105,000 pounds at most. I would think. I think a Schneiderlin would cost maybe anywhere from maybe 70 to 85,000 pounds a week. And a lot of people even rate Schneiderlin better than Khedira as far as the position goes. When you think of just the position alone, people rate Schneiderlin better than Khedira because Khedira likes to bomb forward so much, to where Schneiderlin is more that classic DM to where he will sit in place and to where Khedira will bomb forward every now and then. So I think Arsenal is doing the right thing here by saying, if this is what you want, we're going to have to take a step back and say no. because, like I said, he's just coming off an ACL injury. He couldn't even play in the World Cup final because of a calf injury. Obviously, it was a calf strain, calf pull, whatever you want to call it. So, obviously he's kind of, maybe he's breaking down. That's kind of a red flag. Of course, the last thing that Arsenal wants to deal with is another injury-prone player. We just do not want to have to deal with that, especially with someone late in their career like this. If you're looking at, of course, Lars Bender is coming off an injury too. I think he had the same type of injury that Aaron Ramsey had. He had like a thigh strain or like a slight pull or tear or something like that in his thigh, which kept him out of the World Cup. But you're looking at a Bender, you're looking at a Schneiderlin, um, who are both younger than Khedira, so you can get more years out of both of those guys. You can sign like a 5-year contract and not have to worry about it. To where who knows what Khedira is asking for too. He might be asking for a 5-year contract, and if you give him a 5-year contract, that's pushing into his 32, 33 range, and you know how Arsenal feels about players over 30, and the years that they play after 30, and what type of money we give them. So you have to take that into account. So again, it's kind of like it's hypocritical of saying we have the money, pay it to them, but at the same time you have to be smart. In this case, the old fable goes as far as Arsene Wenger. I'm just not going to spend the money just for the sake of spending the money. So in this case, I think they're doing the right thing. We're kind of calling Khedira's bluff, I guess you could say. And then there was a report today that Khedira was gonna say sorry to Real Madrid and come back, but with the Toni Kroos signing, I just don't see it. I don't see how there's any room for him at Real Madrid anymore. Because I think he was going to be the sacrificial lamb regardless, with Toni Kroos coming in, and of course the James Rodriguez reports coming out as well, that Real Madrid are close, or they want to sign him at least. And I just don't see where Khedira can even fit into the Real Madrid side. So I think he's going to be the sacrificial lamb. To where he goes, who knows? Some reports are saying that Chelsea has a great chance because Chelsea doesn't seem to care, and they don't seem to care about their roster size either. That team is going to be in bedlam at some point next season, with all the players they have. I mean, the roster size has to be around like 50 by now, right? They have like 1,000 midfielders and 1,000 wingers. I mean, that side's going to be there's going to be a lot of pissed off players on that side because they're not getting into it. And just like a Chelsea, all they do is buy players and then send them out on loan. I mean, that's what Chelsea is. They have the most loaned out players in the Premier League for, I think it's something like 3 or 4 years running right now. So it's kind of ridiculous that they're even trying to go after Khedira as well. But I think that's just Jose Mourinho saying, "Oh, that's one of my boys from Real Madrid. Let's sign him. Let's get him in here." And who knows what they're going to be doing. I really don't care either, because I just don't see how that's all that kind of crap is going to work in one side. I just don't see how that's going to work over there at Stamford Bridge. I mean, they'll be a good side. They'll win games, but I just don't see it. So, as far as this Khedira stuff, I think I think if it doesn't happen within a week, I think you're going to see Arsenal give up on it and then just go a different route. Of course, some are saying that they've already given up and they're already talking in with like a Morgan Schneiderlin and a Lars Bender. So, who knows what's going to be going on with that? Because even if you bring in one of those guys too, you got to think maybe either this season or next season, or even during the January window, that one of Flamini, Arteta, or someone's probably gonna go maybe. You can see like a Diaby still trying to come back too, from last year from injury, and where's he gonna fit into the side as well? But I really hope they, like I said, we've started out this window so well, where we're filling needs, and that next need right now is the DM spot. We definitely need one. We definitely need one to come in this window, not next window, not January window. We need one this window to really solidify that back four, to really give them the protection they deserve. Of course, there's other reports too, as far as David Ospina, which is the goalkeeper from Colombia, he used to play in League One. Of course, I don't have too much information on him of what I even think about him, because I don't watch too much of the French league. Of course, when like PSG is on or something like that, I'll watch them. But other than that, I just don't really watch the league at all. So the only kind of thoughts I have on Ospina is from the World Cup, and he played pretty well in the World Cup. I remember watching him for that Uruguay game, Colombia against Uruguay, and he made some big boy saves. And if we can get him into the side, I mean that's one of the goalkeepers of the tournament that people are saying, one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the whole tournament. So if we could bring him into the side and really give Szczesny some competition. And of course, he'll probably be playing in the Carlton Cup, the FA Cup ties, and hopefully he'll maybe get a Premier League game here and there, maybe even a worthless Champions League game, maybe in the group stage, if we already have the group stage locked up, hopefully. Who knows, but it's good competition to keep Szczesny on his toes and keep him progressing, because Szczesny last year, he just he's made major steps into becoming what he's going to become soon enough, and that's going to be a world class goalkeeper. I think he's going to be considered one of the best goalkeepers in the world in about a year or two. I really believe that. I think he has that type of talent. He just needs to get his head right. Every single game. There's moments here and there that he's just like, you kind of hold your breath, and it's like, oh my God, what the fuck is he doing? You had that a lot in the last few seasons, but last year he really cleaned that up to where he would get the ball at his feet and he would just get rid of it, rather than playing around with it, or trying to act like he's a striker or a winner or something, or he's Mesut Ozil, which he's not. And he's been bringing up his game, and he's made major steps in his game to really finally have that maturation to become a great goalkeeper and the next great goalkeeper for Arsenal. So, but I mean, the competition is needed. It'll be a great signing. I think they're only going to get him for something like 3 or 4 million, because I think it might be on a free transfer as well. So I mean, that's like next to nothing when you're bringing in a good class goalkeeper like David Ospina. So it seems like that one's wrapped up. Of course, we still have some other work to do, I think. People are still saying there's something else in the works, possibly. Possibly another winger, definitely a center half if Vermaelen goes. That seems to be heating up day after day, especially when you don't hear anything from TV5 at all about if he wants to stay or go. I heard they want Chris Smalling in return, as far as the deal with Thomas Vermaelen, and it's just like. I know Arsene Wenger was trying to get him, before Manchester United did, and of course that whole deal is very well documented with Chris Smalling to Arsenal years back. But hopefully they try to go out there and get a young center half, maybe around that 21, 22 year age, if they can't get Smalling in the return deal. It almost seems like that's what it's going to possibly be. That's the only way that they'll let TV5 go to Manchester United. But there's some names out there. I know I heard Winston Reid is possibly a name from West Ham. That might be a possibility that we might get. I don't know how much that's true. Steven Kulker is another name that's out there who's young, who could really benefit. He's an ex-Spurs player, but bringing in someone, of course he's English too, so all the English people will be up in arms about that, and they'll love that. But there's younger center halves out there that you can bring in for cheap, and have them learn alongside of Koscielny and Mertesacker, and get that leg up, and just get tutored onto which will be later into the first team eventually once Mertesacker or Koscielny move on. So a lot of good things happening. Of course, like I said, last Thursday was Sanchez. This Thursday was Debuchy. So who knows? Maybe next Thursday somebody else. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this weekend with the Khedira stuff. I think you'll see more and more stuff come out with Khedira. I think Khedira has little to no options right now. It seems like the only options that he has is Arsenal and Chelsea, because it doesn't seem like Real Madrid even wants him back, to be honest with you, especially after denying their 2-year contract extension. So we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully we'll have some good news this weekend or in the coming days on a new target or signing, and that'll be it. Later.